Hey, welcome to the show. Today we're going to talk about Operation Chokepoint and whether or not, almost a decade later, we are now in the middle of Operation Chokepoint 2.0. Hey, welcome to the show. Molly here. Today we're going to talk about Operation Chokepoint. So, this is something that was implemented during the Obama years and was basically a way for the government to shut down or massively disrupt industries that, quite frankly, they didn't like. I'm going to break down kind of how that happened, how that played out. But the reason I'm bringing it up now is that it very much appears that the crypto slash digital assets industry is now in the middle of a Operation Chokepoint 2.0, as Silvergate and Silicon Valley Bank both appear to be kind of caught up in the middle of a turf war where no laws have really been broken. And these banks, in addition to some other banks, appear to be taken out by the banking system, who very much looks like they want to control the world of money, which includes digital assets. Because even though cryptocurrencies are considered this sort of separate class, potentially even like a speculative thing, digital assets and blockchain technology will very likely be the rails for the financial system. And the party that controls those has a tremendous amount of power. All right, let's just quickly go through what is in the Wikipedia page for Operation Chokepoint. So it was started in 2013 under the Obama administration. It was a Department of Justice initiative and essentially went after businesses in certain industries that around the sort of financial side, the banking side. And the sort of official narrative was that these businesses were either high risk for fraud or money laundering. However, none of these businesses were actually illegal. There's a pretty long list, or at least in every state. I mean, firearms and fireworks, for example, are not allowed in some states, but they are in others. So if you lived in an area where that is legal, you should be allowed to have that business. The list is pretty long, but the ones that interest me the most for our discussion today are going to be around payday loans, because that is sort of a alternative to the traditional banking system. And if you kind of read through this, there's a little bit of a history with a certain set of banks, Capital One, Bank of America, PNC, were basically pressured to not allow check cashers and payday lenders to have banking relationships. And it looked like it kind of came from some sort of centralized entity. The interesting thing that I found here was this one particular quote from Frank Keating of the American Bankers Association. He complained that Chokepoint was asking banks to identify customers who are simply doing something the government officials don't like. Banks then choke off those customers' access to financial services, shutting down their accounts. So, this is a remarkably and sadly effective way for a very powerful group that has control and influence over the government to restrict that industry or businesses in those industry. We've seen this used as a tool in the last couple of years, where if a company's not doing anything illegal, but someone very powerful doesn't like them, you can go and get their bank account revoked. And, while it's nice to say we live in this world where you can kind of just live outside the banking system, the sad reality is that most businesses that have payroll or rent to pay or bills to pay, need to do those through the traditional banking system. And if you want to be able to accept credit cards, which is, how the vast majority of people, especially in the United States, like to pay for things, you generally need to have a bank account for that to work. Now, if you read down more on the Wikipedia page, you can see that there was quite a few instances of this happening. But when Trump came into office, this program was supposedly officially terminated. However, and we're going to talk about what's going on right now in crypto, but this has been going on for a while in other industries. So you might know this, but years ago, I had this soap making business and I coached lots of different soap, skincare products producers. And there was a bunch of people who made CBD products, things that were like bath bombs or very low potency. And if you got caught selling any product with CBD oil in it, this was years ago, even at a minuscule amount, like your Stripe account could be shut off. You could be kicked off Shopify, your PayPal account could be seized. And it was interesting because it's not illegal, and people were doing this in states where these products were fully legal, But again, there's a way for you to shut down or disrupt an industry that isn't necessarily just from government regulation. And what it looked like at the time was many of these sort of natural remedy alternative pharmaceutical products, it was very difficult to get banking accounts. And what was kind of just frustrating for some people that I worked with and talked to at the time was, you could have a business that was running for a long time and no one had complained, no one had gotten sick, there was nothing harmful in any of these products. And if you were using PayPal, one day they just would shut you off and seize the money. Like, and there was very difficult recourse, especially if you're a small business and don't have access to a team of attorneys. All right, so this is an interesting article that brought up the reason I wanted to make this video today, which is that Signature Bank, which is in the process of being acquired, and interestingly, this also all happened so fast that Signature Bank very likely may have not really done anything wrong and may not have even had the opportunity to sort of fix anything unhealthy in their business before this sort of takeover happened. So right now, the FDIC has nationalized them, essentially taken over this via a bail-in type structure, and they're shopping around for a particular buyer. But the interesting part about this story is that the FDIC is requiring that anybody who buys this bank not engage with any crypto. And first of all, what does that really mean, crypto? We kind of know that there's a certain set of assets on the blockchain, but there are also many legitimate business applications that have focus on the utility side of it. And none of these things are illegal. And so the fact that the government would say that there's a condition around this purchase based on this crypto association, it looks a lot like Operation Chokepoint, where they do not want anybody to participate in this industry unless it's somehow there's some kind of condition that must be met. So it looks like the incumbent financial services industry may be the ones to take this over. But it's interesting that this Signature Bank acquisition has this condition associated, which is quite frankly not legal. This is interesting. As I was recording this video, this kind of popped up into my feed. Fidelity has announced that they have now opened Bitcoin trading for the public during this crisis. And so what's remarkable is Signature Bank, which is going through this acquisition process, has now been told that it's not allowed to have anything to do with crypto, but yet Fidelity, which is part of the traditional banking system, is now selling Bitcoin. So it appears there are inconsistent set of rules, and certain sectors of the traditional financial markets are going to seem to be allowed to do one thing, where the potential buyer for Signature is not allowed to do another. So it's sort of a bizarre world. It's not clear, like, what are the rules of being part of this industry and how can someone navigate them? If the only rule is if you're part of the traditional, like, Fed banking cartel, you can do whatever you want. And if you're not, then you can't. I mean, that's what it kind of looks like are the only rules. If there is a clearer set, please let me know and I'll point to them. All right, to wrap this up, Operation Chokepoint was started 10 years ago as a way to attack some alternative industries, including the payday loan industry that is sort of a threat to the traditional banking world. We saw this play out with other categories, as I mentioned, the CBD alternative remedy category. And now the crypto industry is being hit with a separate set of rules from the traditional finance world. Signature Bank has a very unusual requirement for the buyer, which doesn't seem to apply to other businesses in the financial services category. So it seems kind of frustrating. I generally don't like to end these on cynical sort of notes, but we seem to have a situation yet again where an incumbent industry is using the government regulators to protect their monopoly, which is totally uncool in my opinion. I do have another announcement. So Jimmy Valley and I, through Val Hill Advisors, are launching a new podcast starting Friday, March 17th called Escape Velocity. It's going to be cool. We're going to break down the week's news, what's going on in blockchain, business, world of money, geopolitics. Really is more targeted towards the business sector. So if you want to check that out, I'll put the link in the description. All right. If you like the video, please like it, subscribe to the channel if you've not already, and I will see you in the next video.